So, do you want to become a digital nomad, but you have no idea how these people that are traveling the world even afford it and earn the money to do so? In this video, I'm going to give you the 3 most common breakdowns of how digital nomads earn money and afford their lifestyle, so you know what options you have. Hi, my name is Sara. I'm passionate about traveling the world, living in different places and countries, and experiencing the people and their culture. If you want to live the digital nomad lifestyle and learn how to do that, please subscribe down below and click the little notification bell. With that said, let's get right into it. So, step number 1 or route number 1 is employment. Meaning, technically, you're still employed for a company, you're working for somebody, but you get to be remote. So let's go through the pros and cons of this. The pros are quite obvious. You have a regular paycheck, and it is the quickest way to get started because you can trust on income coming in regularly. What you would have to do is just, either negotiate a way to work remotely with your current employer or find a company that offers remote jobs. Latest since the pandemic, there are so many companies that do that, it becomes more and more common. The downsides probably are that you might still be tied to a certain time zone, meaning if you have to, example, virtually attend any kind of staff meetings, if you have clients that you need to communicate with, yeah, you can technically, if you are allowed to work remotely, travel wherever you like, but depending on which time zone you end in, you might have to get up at 3 o'clock at night to have a business call, and that could be wearing you out quite a lot. Number 2 is you would probably have to have a good check on the tax situation with your company. As far as I know, if you are American, then you have to pay taxes in America no matter where you are, but I am not, so please double check that. If you are not from the US, this might differ, but even if you don't have to, I could imagine that your company might not be too happy if you change, tax structures every 3 to 5 months. So this is something that you would have to make sure to figure out with them. Also, working on a tourist visa, as many digital nomads actually do, might be more difficult if you have an employment contract, because oftentimes border police will ask you what you are doing for a living and if you're coming here to travel, and questions might arise when people realize that you are officially employed but you've been traveling for 3, 6, 9 months. So keep that in mind as well. Number 2, freelancing. What could you do? Well, I bet you already have a skill that you could monetize on as a freelancer. Graphic design, web development, video editing, video channel management, social media management, coding, virtual assistant, copywriting. There are so many freelance options these days. To get started with that, you would have to create a profile on a freelance website, like for example Fiverr, Upwork. There are plenty others. Usually to attract clients, you're going to need a portfolio, so this might take a little time to set up and compile a body of work that you can show. Benefits of freelancing is you really are your own boss. You can take clients as you like, you can work whenever you want, you might not be as tied to time zones. And the negative side of it is, however, that money might come in less regular, particularly in the beginning when you don't have an existing body of clients. It might be a little harder to get started. You might have to run after bills that aren't being paid. So it's a little more hassle and a little more administrative work in the background, I would say, than just working your normal job and knowing that this amount of money will show up on your bank account every month. Also, as with employment, your income is kind of capped. In case of having employment, your income is capped by your employer. You're not going to earn more than your employer is willing to pay you. With freelance, you have a little more wiggle room of how much you could earn, depending on how much you are willing to work. If you work yourself to the bone, of course you have the chance of making a lot more money, which you could then use to take a month off and just travel without working, for example. Before we get to the third, the hardest but potentially most rewarding way of becoming a digital nomad, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button. It's a completely free way for you to support me in my efforts here. So last but not least, a third way to digital nomadism is to become self-employed, as in have your own company, start a startup. Now the problem with this, it's probably the hardest path. it'll take the most amount of work up front. It'll take the longest, most likely the longest, to generate any form of meaningful income. Therefore, meaning it will probably require the biggest amount of savings before you even start to travel. On the other hand, if starting your own company, if you have an idea and starting your own company has always been your dream, becoming a digital nomad might be exactly the thing for you. Why? Because many of us who would like to start a company might not be able to do so in their home country with the high cost of living there. Whereas it is not uncommon for people to be able to afford starting a company, building a startup in a cheaper country where they can afford to put all their effort into building that company while not having to worry so much about the cost of living. So the benefit of building your own company, other than of course, building your own company, is that your income is not capped. If you, for example, build a service, a product, sell a course, something like that, have a great idea that you can market, once you've put the initial work in, once you've built the grounds for it, you might be able to sell it to a lot of people without having to put extra work into it. And that would allow you to make a lot more money, because now your income is no longer tied to your time. Your income is not correlated to how many hours a day you work. It might be more correlated to how many people you manage to sell your product to with one campaign, with one email or whatsoever. So if your dream is to start a new company, digital nomadism might just be the thing for you. Also because if you decide to live in digital nomad hubs, visit co-working spaces, stuff like that, you'll be surrounded by a lot of like-minded people, a lot of people that are buzzing with ideas, that have different kind of skills that you could use and that are willing to work together because they're basically all after the same dream. So you can also make a lot of meaningful connections. It's this idea that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Well, if you surround yourself with a lot of innovative people that are out, and about building stuff and inventing new things, then that's the average of the people that you're gonna be. So if you're now wondering how on earth you could actually come up with the savings to start becoming a digital nomad, check out this playlist here of how to become a digital nomad within 1 year, where I break down how to save, how to budget, which kind of side hustles you could build, and so much more. With that said, I hope I'll see you here in the next video. Bye bye!